Okay. So let us see, as per your academic timetable or academic pattern that you're having in your JNTK pattern. So according to the R19 regulation, we are having this one as the first chapter, that is DC machinery. So as I have already told you, DC machinery involves two kinds of machines. So the first one is, anyway, the first one is generator and the second one is motor. So according to the pattern I'm going, okay, so I'm not giving any kind of overview here. I'm going deep into the subject. So let us now start with the basic concepts of this DC machines. So the basic concept of DC machines start with the principle of operation. So the principle of operation means what is the operation that is involving in both of these machines. Because when I'm telling machine, which involves both generator and motor. So when I'm telling machine, it is nothing but it could be a generator or it could be a motor. So we have to start the basic concept of DC machines with its operation principle. So we have to know the principle of operation and then we shall go with the even more concepts. Okay. So let us go with the principle of operation. That is principle of operation. So principle of operation, you might always be knowing because you might have studied the same concept in your 10th standard, or if you might have some idea, you would have studied the same operation in your intermediate also. So the operation that is involving in this generator or motoring operation is nothing but it entirely depends upon the electromagnetic induction. So when I say electromagnetic induction, you would remember the name of Faraday's. So Faraday's electromagnetic induction. So we have to understand that one first. So there are certain laws that he has proposed. So we have to go with each of the laws that he has proposed. And so let us see how this motoring or generator principle works. So here let us understand the first basic concept of generation and then we shall go with the motoring process. No matter what it is, the principle of operation is nothing but the Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. Let us understand electromagnetism first and then understand electromagnetic induction entirely, because the basic concept that we are touching is electromagnetic and then we are going deep into the induction. So we will see the literal meanings of electromagnetic and induction. So electromagnetic induction, electromagnetic induction. So electromagnetism is there as well as induction is also there. So when we combinedly read these two words, I mean the entire words, so we can say electromagnetic induction. That means some kind of electromagnetism is being induced, some kind of electromagnetism is being induced into a conductor or into any material which is conductive. So if we induce any kind of electromagnetism or electricity due to magnetism or magnetism due to electricity, if we do this, any kind of conductor, we call it as electromagnetic induction. That means the process that is happening in that conductor is called to be electromagnetic induction. And let us now understand it very clearly. Okay, let us now start with a line diagram, like means single line diagram. Okay. So to give you an idea, you might have seen a single turn conductor. So this is called to be a single turned conductor. So the starting from here, it goes here and it completes one complete cycle like this. So this means this is completing one complete cycle, and so I call this as one conductor which is the complete whole cycle. That means it starts from the one point and it is ending at the nearly the same point. So what happens? This is one turn. So this is considered to be one turn. So what happens automatically when you supply power or when this is kept in a static magnetic field? When this is kept in a static magnetic field. So now what is the magnetic field? So why is it coming into the picture? You might be having that kind of doubt. So let us understand the magnetism first. So have you ever seen a bar magnet? The bar magnet will have two poles which are opposite in signs. One is north and another one is south. And if you have observed, if you have done some experiments in your 10th class, maybe in your primary classes, you might have done some experiments on these kind of bar magnets, where you observe some kind of lines that form when you put some conductive powder on a paper, putting this magnet behind it, you will observe some kind of lines forms on this magnet. So these lines around this magnet node, so around this magnet there will be some lines forming. So all these lines are called to be field lines. What are these? Field lines. So this is a field line. So what happens? It is producing its own field. So this magnet is having its field from here and it is extending till here. This is having certain field because this magnet is producing some kind of magnetic field around it. So I call this as a magnetic field. So it is now producing with the help of a magnet. So can we produce with the help of electricity also? So you might have asked me, you might be asking me some questions like this is producing some kind of magnetic field. It's okay. So can we produce the same magnetic field with help of electricity? Yes, it is possible. Why not? Because it will be possible by the following laws. I will tell you in the detail. So here this is forming certain field. This field will have certain intensity. Intensity in the sense in Telugu we say tivrata. So this will have field as well as this field, this magnetic field will definitely have some kind of magnetic field strength. So that strength or the intensity of the magnetic field that we are having around this magnet is considered to be the flux. What is it called? Flux. And let us now understand the flux also. Let us keep this aside for some time because without understanding the magnetic field, we cannot go directly into this one. Okay. So let us now understand what flux is. Flux in the sense, as I have already told you, flux in the sense, the intensity of the magnetic field that this magnetic is providing. So this magnet is providing this much of field and this much of field is having this much of intensity in the magnetism. So what happens automatically? This flux or the intensity of the flux or intensity of the magnetic field is represented with the flux. It is nothing but flux. What is it? It is flux. So flux is normally denoted with pi. Flux is normally denoted with pi. So we have to understand this first and then let us go to the deeper sections. So flux in the sense it is denoted with pi and it is having the units of Webers. So normally any physical quantity or any kind of scientific quantity will definitely have some kind of units. Without units, we cannot figure out any physical quantity or any other quantity, scientific quantity or whatever it is. So it is having certain units which is called to be Webers. And then flux is there. Then what, have you ever heard the name flux linkage? For example, I'll tell it in detail. For example, there is a coil like this. There is a coil like this. You know, according to thumb rule, when the current is moving in this direction, the flux will be in this direction. That means when the current is moving in this direction, so the direction of the current is in this direction. So when the current is moving in the direction, then the flux will be in this direction. So when a single wire carrying some I current is producing this much of magnetic field, because according to thumb rule, when the current is moving in this direction, the field will be in this direction. And so in this single wire, the field is in this direction, that is the magnetic field in this direction. But what happens when this wire is twined like this? Because the wire here is in the twining, so it is totally twined. So what happens when the wire is getting close to each turn? Here there are a number of turns. Let us say we are having n turns. How many turns? N turns, because we do not know the count of it. Okay, and n will be always constant because once the wire is turned or twined, it is constant. We cannot change it after the construction. We cannot change it. So what happens? It is having some n turns. So the number of turns here is given by n. So what is the flux linkage? Because when the current is moving in this direction, definitely the magnetic field will be in this direction. So till here it is like in this direction. But what about from this point, from this point? So this will also have its greater magnetic field in this direction maybe, because it will have high intense magnetic field. And this magnetic field will have flux. Because this is also having flux, right? So this is magnetically produced magnetic flux. This is electrically produced magnetic flux. So this magnetic flux is there. For each turn, we have to find the flux linkage. That means for this turn, there will be some amount of flux. And for this turn, there will be some amount of flux. And for this turn also, there will be some amount of flux. So till n turns, there will be some amount of flux. So now I am talking about how this turn flux is linking with the next turn flux. Understand it very clearly. The flux that is produced by this turn will be linked with the flux that has been produced by the next turn. Similarly, this happens till n turns also. So my point is, flux linkage is nothing but the flux that is linking with the each turn. So here we are having n turns, and so the flux linkages here will be calculated by n into whatever the flux that we are having, because the flux here in the each turn is constant. So the flux is constant, the number of turns are constant, and so the lambda will also be a constant. So lambda in the sense, because I did not tell you this, so flux linkage is normally denoted with lambda. Flux linkage is normally denoted with lambda. So how can I calculate flux linkage here? Now the flux linkage can be calculated for n turns is nothing but n multiplied with pi. What is it? N multiplied by 4 pi. So that is equal to n into pi. N into pi. If you are writing some notes, so please keep this as a note. Please keep this as a note. Don't leave all those things, but this one keep it as a note. Okay. Just lambda equals to n pi is enough, okay? Don't worry about any other thing, okay? Lambda equal to m pi is almost sufficient. Okay, let us now understand Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. So Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction is nothing but, he is telling when a conductor is placed in a magnetic field, when a conductor is placed in a magnetic field, let us understand this by like this. There is one north pole and here we are having a south pole. So as you know, the magnetic field always starts from north and terminates at south. So magnetic field lines are in this direction. So in this magnetic field, if I place a conductor, let us say it is a 1-ton conductor, because for your simplicity or for your understanding or for your convenience, I'm telling it in this way. So this is 1 ton which is kept, 1-ton conductor which is kept in north and south magnets. So within these north and south magnets, we will have the magnetic field lines. So what happens when this is turned? So what Faraday is telling is, when a moving conductor is placed in a magnetic field, that means this conductor is not stationary. This conductor is moving. Understand me very clearly. This conductor is not stationary. It is not like it is at rest. It is moving in certain direction. Let us understand it in that way. So it is moving in this direction, let us say in any direction. So what happens to this conductor? Nothing happens, but what happens is, you know, because of this field, this will, the kind of material that I used for this material, I mean conductor, maybe let us say it is a copper. Okay, let us say it is a copper. So when the copper is used, the outermost electron is 1, because the copper atomic number is 29. So the outermost electron will be 1. So this 1 electron has to be supplied with enough energy to get out of this valence shell. So what happens automatically, this magnetic field will supply certain energy to that outermost electron in this conductor, so that that electron becomes free. You know, because you might be knowing the Niels Bohr atomic structure, right? So there will be valence shell in which the copper will have 1 electron in its valence shell. So if you supply enough energy for this electron, it will get out of the ground state. So it goes to excited state. So what happens? This electron becomes free. This electron becomes free. So you have to understand the current that we are getting in our houses, the power that we are getting in our houses. Your bulb is glowing only because of this free electron, not because we are only having 1 electron. There are innumerous electrons. So I am telling, the point is, this 1 electron is capable of producing electricity, because this electron is responsible for the current in your home. Understand it? So what happens here, this electron has to flow in certain direction, that we will talk in the next lecture. So this, when this is rotating in some direction, then only this electron will get that energy. Why? Because this has to disturb this magnetic field, and then only this conductor and this magnetic field are going to interact with each other. Without interaction, what would happen? Nothing would happen. So now when this is in rest, nothing would happen. So what happens eventually? When this is in 0 degrees, that means it is kept like this. It is not moving, it is kept like this. So what happens? Automatically we do not have any kind of voltage, because no voltage is produced. So when this is twisted or turned till 90 degrees, so what happens? Automatically some EMF will be induced. That is what the Faraday is saying. Okay, So I'll tell you how it is working, and I'll let you know the equation of generator also. Okay, basic generator. And then what happens automatically, some voltage will be produced. Let us say this is voltage and this is time. So according to the time, the voltage is also changing here. So that's why we call it as alternating. So here from it started from 0 volts and it went till some, let us say it is V volts. Okay. And after, because now the angle of this conductor is like this, and now if I rotate even more than 90 degrees, so it becomes 180 again. That means it is rest again. So when it is rest again, that means it is not producing any voltage again, because it comes to 0 again. So again, I turn it even more down to 90 degrees. So what happens again? It will produce a negative voltage. And again, I rotate even more. And then what happens? It comes back to the previous position. And now it is like this. So what happens? The same conductor is producing one positive cycle and one negative cycle. And this is how the electricity is produced in a generator. But I'm not talking about this. How is it happening? That's what we are talking about. So let us understand the Faraday's law of electromagnetism first. He stated some kind of, some kind of laws. So let us study that also. Okay. Okay. So he is saying, what is he saying? If a moving conductor is placed in a magnetic field, the conductor that is placed in a magnetic field, what happens automatically? Some EMF will be induced. Some EMF will be induced. And later he is saying another thing also. So how is this EMF induced? That we can talk later. But for what is this EMF proportional to? So he is telling that this EMF is directly proportional to the change in flux. What is he telling? EMF produced will be directly proportional to the rate of change in flux. Rate of change in flux. So understand this very clearly. I am writing its mathematical equation also. Let us consider that the EMF that is produced is given by E, because the EMF produced will be given with E. So this E, what is he saying? This EMF produced will be directly proportional to the rate of change of flux. What is it? The rate of change of flux. Let us understand this. This is the starting point of generator equation, because the EMF equation of the generator will be derived in this same way. Okay, if you are taking a notes, write each and every point that I'm writing on this board. Okay, if you're writing a notes, that's important. Even if you're not writing the notes, you can just remember this one. But this is very much important as an electrical engineering. No, you must have to keep everything, whatever I'm teaching here, into your minds. Okay, this is not like I'm not even using my mother tongue also. That's why I'm very much, I'm confused whether you are understanding or not. But still, I'll go a little slower. Okay. If you're not understanding English, let me know, because if I come to know when something is happening, then only I can explain it even efficiently. So let us complete this one first. So what E here? So E is nothing but the electromotive force that is produced in a generator. Faraday is telling that electromotive force will be directly proportional to the rate of change in flux. That is, this is directly proportional to the rate of change of flux with respect to time, that is. So that is nothing but d pi by dt, because pi is flux here and the time is, it is t, simply denoted with. So EMF that is produced is directly proportional to the rate of change of flux with respect to time. Rate of change of flux with respect to time. And let us derive the EMF equation completely. Okay, let us go step by step. So here the first point is E is directly proportional to d pi by dt. d pi by dt. And then what do we have? For removing this proportionality constant, we must have to bring one constant, because we have to remove this proportionality. So in order to remove that, we have to bring some constant, right? So while in this solenoid, so let us take this as a solenoid or whatever you want, like maybe an inductor. So it is having n turns. So what is constant here? N is constant, right? So it is also producing some flux also. So this is n, and it is producing some flux. So here n is constant, right? As we are having n as a constant, we can put n as a proportionality constant here, right? So E equals to n into d pi by dt. And E equals to n into d pi by dt. And then E equals to, let us multiply n in pi because n is a constant, so we can multiply this way pi also. So we can write d pi dt into n into pi. But I am getting to one thing. What is this n pi here? I have already told you. If phi is the flux that has been producing by the each of the turn, and then if this is the flux which is constant over the length of this conductor, and when this is the flux, when n is the number of turns that this solenoid or whatever it is having, so for finding the flux linkage, we have to multiply the number of turns with the flux. So n pi is nothing but the flux linkage. So we can say EMF, I mean the EMF is directly proportional to, or EMF is equal to, I mean the EMF is equal to the rate of change of flux. What is it? The rate of change of flux linkage. Rate of change of flux linkage. And let us now write this one here. So this one equals to d lambda by dt. So this is the generated EMF equation that you will get. So this is the basic one, because this you are having it in your syllabus paper. So it is very much important to understand this, because this is going to be the very basic thing. Even if you are preparing for GATE, it is very much important. Okay, even GATE students or GATE aspirants are also following the same understanding. And now let us go with the kinds of EMF that we get. Shall we go? And let me now see if someone is writing some comments. Otherwise, I don't get what is happening. Oh, no comments so far. 38 members are there. Okay, that's okay. That's fine. Shall we continue with the next topic? Okay, let us now continue with the next topic also. Okay, I will be rubbing this. If someone wants to write the notes, please take a screenshot and then you can write it in your notes. Okay. Okay, and now let us continue with another point, that is the kinds of EMF. Let us understand the kinds of EMF. Here we are having two kinds of EMF. So I will write it here. My God, it's not writing. I don't think it is very much visible, but still cooperate with this one, because I'm not having enough kit here, because I do not usually do this YouTube channel videos. So that's why. Let us adjust for today, or else I'll take another chalk. Okay. So EMF is basically divided into two. You know, EMFs are, the first one is statically induced EMF. Statically induced EMF. And then the second one is, when I say static here, and the next one will be definitely dynamic. That is dynamically induced EMF. Dynamically induced EMF. So what are the kinds of EMF do we have here? I'm having the one kind of EMF that I'm getting here will be, one is statically induced EMF. I'll tell you what this statically induced EMF means. Okay, don't worry about it. And here, come here, this is dynamically induced EMF. What is called static and what is called dynamic? Let us understand this also. So statically induced EMF, and if it is possible, try to take it a screenshot, because the board provided here is very less in area. Okay, let us understand statically induced EMF. That is statically induced EMF. I'm writing shortcuts, but you do not follow the shortcuts. Okay, here the board is very much less in area, so I'm not getting enough space to write here. So that's why I'm taking shortcuts. Okay, do not write this as I'm writing here. Okay, and then let us continue with statically induced EMF. SI means statically induced. So what is statically first? Which is going to be static? Is field is going to be static, or is conductor is going to be static? Let us understand. For example, I am having one north and south. If I have two polarities here, definitely the field lines will be in this direction. I am having one conductor also, which is placed here. So when I say I am getting some EMF in these polarities, because I will get some EMF when this is disturbed. So this conductor has to disturb this field line so that it will get some enough energy to excite the outermost shell electron. So what happens? Obviously, the EMF will be produced when there is a current obviously there will be some EMF that is happening, because this electromotive force is the one which forces the electron to travel. Understanding? This is the only thing. This is like, this is an agent to drive the electron from one point to another point. So EMF is very important in case of generator. So this happening, the whole EMF will be a phenomenon inside a machine. Whatever the voltage that we are getting as our power appliances, no, because we get some power into our homes also. So that power is nothing but the terminal power we take. Okay, do not confuse that with EMF. So EMF is nothing but the electromotive force which forces one electron to move from one point to another point. So what is statically induced EMF? Statically in the sense which is going to be static. Static in the sense rest. What is static in the sense rest? అంటే నార్మల్గా తెలుగులో అయితే ఏదైతే నార్మల్గా ఉంటుందో అంటే కదలకుండా ఉండేది ఏంటి, అది రెస్టింగ్ పొజిషన్లో ఉండటం. సో ఇఫ్ సంథింగ్ ఈజ్ ఇన్ స్టాటిక్, I consider it is staying at the rest. So it is rest. Like, statically induced EMF in the sense I am having two components here. One is north and south pole magnets are there, magnets are there. Another thing is I'm having one conductor. So here there are two components which has to be considered. One is magnetic field which is being produced by north and south poles, and then another thing is the conductor. So within these two, which is going to be constant or which is going to be static? So I should always take with respect to the conductor. For example, if this north and south poles are moving, I'm not moving this conductor. This conductor is not moving. Okay, I'm not rotating this conductor. So this conductor is not going to disturb the magnetic field. So this magnetic field is indirectly going to disturb the conductor. In the sense, the conductor is going to be at rest. So the EMF, because the magnetic field is moving here, it is obviously disturbing the conductor. So this conductor is not going to be moving. Okay, this conductor is not moving, but this conductor is at rest, but this magnetic field will move. So what is it? This magnetic field is moving, that I know, but indirectly this magnetic field has been cutting this conductor. The similar thing happens even when I cut this, even when I turn this conductor, EMF will be induced. Here the magnetic field itself is moving. Now also the EMF will be induced in the conductor, but the conductor is not moving because the magnetic field is already moving. So some EMF will be induced in this conductor also. That EMF we call it as this one, statically produced EMF. Statically produced EMF. So we call it as a statically induced EMF. Statically induced in the sense some amount of EMF is being induced into the conductor, but the conductor is at rest, but the magnetic field is not in rest, it is moving. So when the magnetic field moves and the conductor is at rest, the kind of induced EMF that I get in this conductor is called statically induced EMF. And now opposite to this, that is dynamically induced EMF. Dynamically induced EMF, this is opposite to it, because here the conductor is moving, not moving. Here what happens, the magnetic field will be at rest. That means these two poles will not move. These two poles will not move. What that moves is the only conductor. What that moves? The only conductor moves. That means this conductor moves, and the kind of EMF that we get while this conductor is moving is called dynamically induced EMF. Because dynamism means when something is moving, we say that this is having the dynamic property. When something is moving vigorously, like when something is moving without any restrictions, then we call it as a dynamic. Then this mechanism, that the body is attaining its dynamism. So this body is now having the dynamism, and so the kind of EMF that is induced in this rotor part or the moving part, the conductor, is called the dynamically induced EMF. Dynamically induced EMF, and these are the most common EMFs that we get actually. So but most of the time we use the dynamically induced EMF for producing electricity. This is not often used actually, because statically induced EMF in the sense we have to move entire magnetic field, which is very much difficult for us to do. Okay, but this one we can do. Simply we can, with the help of SAD we have seen, with the help of your prime mover, we can rotate this. SAD we have seen, right? With the help of your prime mover, that means with the help of an engine, we can move this one, by which we can get the electricity. In this one, we can collect this electricity with the help of a slip rings also. Okay, let me have some rest for some time. Meanwhile, if anyone is having certain doubts, let me know this in the comment section. Okay. Okay, let me have a view on comment section. Still 37 members are there. So good explanation, Arvind sir. Thank you, sir. So is anyone having doubts? Let me know in the comment section below so that I'm having. Okay. Okay. And then, according to the syllabus paper that you are having, according to R19 recollection, I have completed I have completed the first point that I have completed is the EMF equation. That is a very basic EMF equation. If you take a it is also called as a simple loop generator. What is it called? It is also called as a simple loop generator in which we have kept only one turn. So that kind of generator that we call it as a simple loop generator. So in that simple loop generator, we have, we have reduced or we have derived the equation that is d lambda by dt. So E equals to d lambda by dt is known. But Faraday is also saying another thing. What is he saying? Have you ever experienced, like, if you put a normal DC motor, if you have a DC motor with you, try that one in your home. What happens when you turn the rotor part? If you are having a small DC motor in your home, try turning the rotor, like means there will be small shaft that comes out. So try to rotate that. It rotate very softly or will it apply some kind of restriction on your hand? You can feel it will apply some restrictions. So this restriction is only due to the magnetic field which is applying some force against the moment of it. So it is having some opposite force. That means it is acting some kind of opposite force which we call it as a Lorentz force. What is it called? Lorentz. So Lorentz force. So Faraday is telling this. I'm not telling this. Okay. This normally happens. So the force that it is opposing the moment of the conductor is normally named as a Lorentz. So Lorentz force of action, in the sense, it prevents the rotation of conductor, because it is applying some opposite force, because it prevents the conductor or prevents the rotor part, or it prevents the part which is moving to rotate. So it is preventing like that even when the supply is not provided. And the supply is provided, obviously the motor rotates. But what happens when the supply is not provided? Even when there is some magnetic field, this magnetic field will apply some opposite force which will not allow the rotor to move. But obviously the force that is applied by that magnetic field will be much lesser than the force that we apply on the rotor, so that it rotates. But you can feel some resistance that it is producing. So that resistance, or that resistance of moving the shaft, is nothing but the Lorentz force. So the force that it is providing for that, the force that it is putting on the, the rotor part or the single core, is nothing but the Lorentz force. So because of this Lorentz force, this EMF turns out to be negative d lambda by dt. Only because of this Lorentz force, which is acting in the opposite direction. So what Faraday is telling is, so the EMF produced is equal to the rate of change of flux linkage with respect to time, but in negative direction. What happens? It is producing, we know that, but it produces in the negative direction. This negative direction is put, because I put negative symbol here, this defines the direction, because this defines the direction of the force. So when I say direction of the force, if it is positive, I will say without any restriction, you can move it and it will rotate over time. But it won't happen in the practical lifetime. So what happens in the practical life is, this will oppose some force. What happens? You will not be able to rotate it even more smoothly, but it happens with some restrictions. So because of this restriction, we will have this negative sign, because this negative sign will tell that this force is being applied in the opposite direction. This is not in the same direction of the rotor, but this is happening in the opposite direction. Okay. And let us go with the classification also, because motoring happens from now. So this is what we can deal with the generator. We shall see how generator works, the components of a generator, we shall see all these things. But for time instance, let us talk about motor also. So this is all about the general mathematical analysis that we do for the generator, but there are much more components related to generator, because you are going to study the construction of the DC motor, I mean DC generator. You're going to study the construction of the motor also, because the constructionally the motor and the generator are both are same, because both are under same category, that is DC. So the constructionally the motor and generator will have the same construction. So this is not going to be so far different from generator and motor, but the motor, the construction, the kind of construction that it is having, the kind of the construction that generator is having, both are almost same, almost. See, let us understand the motoring function also, because we have seen the generator and we have derived the equation of the generator, simple loop generator also. We are going deep inside it, but before that, let us understand this motoring operation also. So what happens when this motor is given with certain kind of EMF or certain, I mean, let us not say EMF, it is voltage. So what happens? So this motor will definitely take, you know that, because you know that I don't need to tell this again, because as you know, motor in the sense, it will take some electrical input, it will take some electrical input will be given, and it will give us some mechanical output. Definitely some action is going in here. So we have to study this action, what that is happening in this one. So we know that when we give supply, it rotates, it happens. But as an electrical engineer or electronics engineer, you must have to know, or you must have some idea on what that happens inside this machine. So you will study what that happens inside this machine. Okay, for this one you must have to, you must have some idea on magnetic field. That's why I told you how magnetic field works. So there is another concept that we have to study before knowing all these things. Okay, so there is a concept, you might have experimented it in your 10th class, because I have done it when I was in the 10th. So this might have happened with all of you, I think so. There will be a battery, for example, this is a battery of, let us say, no matter how much volt it is, let us say it is 3 volts. So when there is a DC battery which is having 3 volts of energy, so this 3 volts, this is positive side and this is negative side. So the current that flows from the positive to negative will be the conventional current, and the current that flows from the negative to positive will be the electric current. I will tell you what those currents are, okay? Don't get confused now. So what happens when there is a wire, like, let us say a copper wire, because I also have taken the copper wire when I was in the 10th class when doing this experiment. So twine your wire like this. You can do it in your homes also. You can put one side of this copper twining will be put in contact with the positive terminal of the battery, and another side will be with the negative side of the battery. So what happens? The current starts flowing from the positive side to negative sides. Let us take it as an example. Okay. So the current starts flowing. So because the current is flowing in the wire, when a current is flowing in your wire, according to the direction, the magnetic field direction will also be there. So when the current is flowing, there will be the magnetic field, right? There will be some magnetic field, because if I'm having some positive terminal here, definitely this will also produce some kind of magnetic field. This will produce this magnetic field due to this current. Because I'm having positive terminal here, I will have north pole here, and definitely the other end is going to be the south pole. Where are we going to recognize these two? So this is going to be, put your iron nail in between for your understanding. Put a iron nail in between. So what happens automatically after some time, due to this magnetic field, this iron nail will also get magnetized. What happens? This iron nail will also get magnetized. After some time, you will be observing this. So this battery will have a certain impact on this iron nail, that is like it is magnetizing this one. According to the permeability that it is having, permeability in the sense, you might have heard about permeability, but you do not know what it is exactly. You are studying, you might have studied it in your intermediate also, but you still do not know the actual meaning of it. So permeability is nothing but the rate at which a material can be magnetized. The rate at which a material can be magnetized. For example, if this is an iron nail, the rate of getting magnetized for this material will be different. For example, if this is copper, the rate of getting magnetized for this material will be different. So according to the permeability, the magnetizing will happen. So how faster you want to be? So do you want it to be magnetized very fastly? It depends upon the permeability. So what happens? So here I am having a north pole and south pole. So this I call it as a electromagnetism, because what happening here is I am producing electromagnet. I mean, I'm producing a magnet with help of a battery. So what happens automatically because of this electricity, I am able to produce a magnetic field. So this I call it as entirely or combinedly I call this as a electromagnetism because the magnetism here is produced by this electricity. Normally, this is the proper understanding. This is the very easy understanding of understanding how electromagnetism is produced. See, I want you to understand this one. Here, due to this battery, some current is flowing, and due to this current, some magnetic field is there. And due to this magnetic field, this material is getting magnetized. I mean, this nail is getting magnetized. But how is it happening? It will happen, but what do we call this process? What do we call this process? So this entire equipment or phenomena, we call it as electromagnetism. But the process of giving energy to this nail, that means I am giving some magnetic property to this nail. The way I am giving is by providing a battery. So when I do this I call it as excitation. I want you to write it down in your notes if you are using excitation. What is it called? It is called nothing but excitation. Excitation in the sense, the way, the process that you are putting some electrical energy to energize a magnetic field. That means you are indirectly giving some magnetic field to this iron nail. That means you are converting this non-magnetic material, or it is not magnetic material, it is magnetic material, but still it is not a magnet. It is not even having any magnetic property. But after doing all these things, it is now having a magnetic property, having one terminal as a north pole and another terminal as a south pole. So the process that you're giving this electrical excitation is nothing but excitation. Electrically, you are giving some supply for making some magnetic material into a complete magnet, which will have the same magnetic properties. Now, after taking this out, this nail will definitely have all the magnetic properties. So this nail now will be having the magnetic properties also. That means this is nail, this north pole, and this is south pole. So this will have its field also. This will have its field normally. Maybe due to the higher usage or due to some other atmospheric pressures or other atmospheric conditions, this nail may lose its magnetic nature. This entirely depends upon the atmospheric conditions. Okay, I do not make this, or I do not make all these things, but atmosphere makes all these things. So the process you give some electrical energy to excite this one to make it a magnet is called excitation. So based on this excitation, the classification of motor is done. Okay. Why I have told you all these things is you must have to understand the excitation, and then you will understand how this motor is classified. Shall we go with the classification now? Yeah, I think you have got some idea on how electromagnet is made. Okay. Let us now have a look on motor classification. Okay, you know how motor works. This I have told you. I'll go deeper into it because we cannot simply take one motor and say all things, but we have to go with each and every motor. The kinds of motors we have is different, and so let us look at each of the motors. Okay, so DC motors. I'm talking about DC motors. So on what basis are we classifying DC motors? Taking what are we making the classification of DC motor? So in terms of excitation that we give, DC motor is broadly divided into two groups. One is self-excited DC motor, and then we will have separately excited DC motor. Self-excited DC motors and separately excited DC motors. So on the basis of, in terms of excitation that we give to a motor, the DC motor is classified into two. So one is self-excitation that we give, and another thing is the separately excited. So let us understand these both very detailedly. Okay, because the classification of DC motors is entirely gonna be like this only. Okay, so if you're writing some notes, please do write these two, very much important, because when you study DC motors, these are the only two terms that you use it most often. Okay, now write this one very fastly so that meanwhile I can see comments if you're having any doubts, so that I can be able to solve your doubts. Yeah, 38 members are there still. Nobody is having doubts, I think so. Which is opposes forces? Actually, I did not understand this question. Which is opposes the force? Okay. Okay, I'll tell you again. So when we have a north pole here and when we have a south pole here, so what happens automatically, the field lines will start flowing from the north to south. So these field lines will not allow any conductor to disturb. That means here we will have a conductor, right? So this conductor, when we move, some EMF will be induced. But this field will not allow any material to disturb the field because the lines are flowing, right? So you might have seen, so I will draw a diagram here. So separately excited. So here, let us see. You might have seen something like if the conductor is rotated like this. If a conductor is rotated like this, here this is north and here it is south. So the field lines will be deflected like this. If you are having some idea, you might have been seeing these all things. Okay, so this deflection, here this is disturbing the field lines. This conductor is disturbing. So this conductor disturbing the field is not allowed. That means this field lines will not allow any conductor to rotate inside. So what happens automatically? Oh, sorry, someone. Okay, Lorentz force. So that opposite force, the field lines are opposing the conductor to move. So that force we call it as a Lorentz force, because it is an opposite direction of the conductor moving, because this will apply some force in this direction, but this is moving in this direction. So the direction is like this, but the direction of this force is like this. So because it is in the opposite direction, I take negative sign over there. That is E equals to minus n d pi by dt. I mean d lambda by dt. Okay. So there is one doubt so far I have got. Okay. Anyhow, let us continue with the other concepts also. So let us now understand self-excited motor, DC motors and separately excited DC motors. I will give you some briefing on this. Okay, let us understand the concept first. So self-excited, firstly, self-excited. Self-excited DC machines, I mean DC motors. For example, maybe not only in the motors, but in the generators also, because the classification is same for both. So here the generator will have a different excitations, like the classification is different. Not only for the motors, the generator is also having the certain classifications. So meanwhile, let us see how this excitation is done self. That means, let us understand this. First, self-excitation is more concentrated. So in the self-excitation, what happens is the EMF that is produced by the generator. Let us understand. For your better understanding, let us consider some practical example. Have you ever seen a generator which is having a battery near it? Have you ever observed that one? I'll give you this one, excitation. So have you ever seen a battery like this? There will be some positive terminal and there will be a negative terminal. So have you ever seen this Excite battery or whatever the company of battery it is having? So have you ever seen this battery with a big and huge generator? Because if there is a generator, there will be a battery. For what purpose is this battery serving? How is this battery serving? This battery is serving for this excitation. This battery is serving for this excitation. So this battery has to excite. That means it is giving the power to the armature or whatever that rotates inside the generator, the excitation. So this excites that one so that it is producing a electrically produced north and south poles. So when these north and south poles are electrically produced, then this excitation will be directly given to the rotor part which is rotating. I'm giving you just, this is not under self-excited, but I'm trying to give you an idea. Okay. So here I'm having north and south poles. So when this excitation is given, I will produce a north and south poles because the winding will be there. Because of this winding, why winding is there always in some kind of complex machines? Only for producing the magnetic field, there are windings. So for produced magnetic field, there must be some other winding which we call it as a armature winding, because in case of synchronous motors, generators, we are going to talk that. But here this is called field because this is producing the field which is north and south. So here this is producing the field. So the field lines will be in this direction, maybe something like this. So these field lines, south is having field lines like this and north is having field lines like this. So this one is rotated with help of a prime mover. So battery is exciting, the field is getting produced. So here prime mover is rotating. So when this prime mover is rotating, this magnetic field will also rotate. So when this magnetic field is rotating, this is indirectly disturbing the coils in the stator, right? So when the coils are disturbed or when this magnetic field is disturbing the coils, definitely the outermost electron of the coils that are in the stator will get excited. That means here the electron will go from the ground state to the excited state. So the electron becomes free. And now the electron must have to get out of this conductor. So the way it gets out of the conductor is through these three ways. If it is a three-phase generator, it comes like this. If it is a single phase, it comes with one phase and one neutral, according to the kind of configuration of the connection that it is having in the armature section. That we go deeper into it. And but now, how is it separately excited? That means this battery is there, right? When this battery is providing some kind of power to the armature, which is rotating, how is this getting? Because this also has to be charged, right? Without charging, how can this serve as an excitation agent? So this cannot do that because it must have its own power. So for this one, the generator will produce the output. I mean, this will be produced, right? And this will be returnly given. For charging this one, there will be separate electronic equipment, which is nothing but, there will be like inverter, or you can say it is a DC converter. So this is a DC converter. So the AC will be produced. This AC will be converted into a DC. So this DC will be given to this battery for charging. So what happens here is the kind of output that we're getting here is AC. Anyway, there will be some kind of electronic equipment which converts this AC into DC, but this DC will be given to this battery for its charging. So here this DC battery will definitely charge. So with this help of charging, this will again give the excitation. So it is taking excitation, and with that excitation it is producing electricity. With that produced electricity, it is now again charging. That means it is self-excited. What is it called? It is self-excited. Self-excited in the sense it will excite by itself. That means there is no need of putting any extra batteries, or there is no need of putting any kind of extra agents for exciting. So the battery within the generator is helping for excitation. Okay, understanding. And then what is separately excited? Separately excited. Separately excited in the sense, understand it very clearly. Okay, you might not be understanding it. Separately, in the self-excitation, the battery may be present or may not present. But here, battery may not be present or may not be present. The kind of supply we get, this will convert AC into DC, and this DC will be directly given to the excitation. But here we use extra agents called batteries. We connect these separately. So these batteries are helpful for excitation. So here there is no need of battery, but here there is need of battery. Understand it? Here we can use battery or we may not use battery, but here there is absolute use of batteries. So we must have to use batteries or other external agents in order to excite. Okay. So self-excited and separately excited, you have got some idea. So excitation, you know how it goes, because excitation in the sense the process you provide energy to your material to get it magnetized. So when this is getting magnetized, the process we call it as electromagnetism, and this happens only because of the external agent, the battery. So you must have to understand what is self-excitation and separately excitation. So separately excited in the sense we have to definitely take the help of an external agent, battery, but here there might be a need of agent or there we might not be having the need of agent. But according to the self-excitation or separately excitation, the generator and motor are classified. Okay. And maybe according to the kind of generators we have in the practical life, we will be seeing different kinds of generator which always produce AC, and then we will convert that into DC. So there in the DC machines, we are going to talk about DC generator only. And let us now have a look at basic DC generator. Okay. This is all about the self-excitation and separately excitation, and this whole thing comes under excitation. Okay. And now if you want to put a new heading like generator, DC generator, okay, DC generator, put a new heading. If you are writing a notes, it is very much important. Or if you are not, you can simply take a screenshot. Okay, let me have some views. Still the count is not going anywhere. It is going well. Okay. Anyway, we shall continue again. See, let us understand the basic concept of generator. But in the generator, you will be dealing with the components also. and I will give you the idea on components also, don't worry. So let us now draw a simple generator. Okay, let us not go deeper into it, but a simple generator. This happens with every generator also, because wherever you are seeing a generator, you can call them, like, the kind of materials that we are seeing, or the kind of parts that we see in the generator are same for every generator. Okay, why it is called as DC generator, I'll tell you that also. Okay. Normally for generators, there will be the outer part. This is called, this is eye hole. Normally for holding this one in the manufacturing units, or maybe wherever it is also called as eyeball, or it is called as eye hole. So this one is used for lifting the machine actually. So this is not much useful, like, you may not be using for your knowing. I'm telling you all these things. So here what happens? So here, let us understand it very clearly. This is a normal diagram that I'm drawing here. So if it is not good, okay, do not blame me for this, because it is like that. It is coming like that. Okay. Anyway, what are these? What is this exact? What is this exact construction is all about? Let us understand this one also. So here, let us have some look on this. So the outer part, all this is only one side here. So let us have a look. So here, see here, this one, there are 4 kind of projections here. So this is first projection, second and third and fourth. So which means what I would do is, this is not constructed like this one, because the kind of material that we use for constructing the outer part may be a cast iron, because it is very hard and it is very rugged in construction. So for constructing any kind of rugged appliances, we normally use cast iron, which is having a high composition of iron. Of course, it is very strong. So cast iron is nothing but which is like, it will be like a steel. So it is as strong as steel also. So this is normally made with cast iron to make this machine rugged. Like, it has to be rigid. So even when it falls from some kind of higher altitudes, it won't get destroyed. But here, how is this made? So these we call as poles. What are these called as? Poles. Normally, the entire thing is not called as pole, but here, this extra projection, that means this extra extension, this one. Let us have a look very clearly. This one, this extra curved one. So this is called pole shoe. What is it called as? Pole shoe. So why are these necessary? For producing the field, let us understand it very clearly. For producing the field, if it is a separately excited machine, for producing the field within this machine, we must have to excite this with some coil. So how are we going to produce the magnetic field within this machine? If I take a battery here, let us say this is positive and negative. So from this battery, I will take one wire coming from this side. I will wind this one, and then I will go for this one, and then I will go this one, and then I will go with this one, and finally the outer wire will come in this direction, which I connected to the negative pole of the battery. So what is happening here? So one pole of the battery is connected. When it is going from the starting, and the ending part is going till the negative part of the negative terminal of the battery. So it is now indirectly producing some field within the machine. So this is now producing. So when there are 2 poles opposite to each other, definitely the poles are going to be opposite poles. So north and south, when we are having like this, let us say this is north and south. So according to the configuration, you might be saying, but it happens normally. So these are the poles, but why are these there? That means the extra projections like curved structures. So these are there to hold this winding, because we are winding this one with the help of a copper wire or whatever it is, copper conductor. But still, while this rotor is moving, or while the generator is in operation, what happens automatically due to the fluctuations that will have, there will be some vibrations. Due to that vibrations, there are chances for this winding to misplace. So normally what happens is, due to that vibrations, normally this goes off. So because of that reason, this pole shoe will not allow that winding to come out of this pole. So this one, due to it is having one north pole and south pole, we name it as a poles. So we name all of them as a poles. So normally this is a 4-pole machine, let us say, because we are having 4 poles here. So according to the number of poles that we have in a machine, we call that machine as a that many of poles machine. So here it is normally a 4-pole machine. So what happens? This field is there, this field is there, but where am I going to collect my electricity? Because this is a generator, I have to collect electricity, right? So I'll draw the rotor part in the next diagram. So if it is okay, take a screenshot of this one also, because it is highly impossible for me to draw here, that's why. Okay, so take a screenshot and then we shall continue. Okay, done. So let us have a look on rotor first. Okay, let us now understand each and every part. So for your convenience or for your understanding, I am making it even simple with a 1-ton rotor. Okay, 1 ton. So this is having only 1 ton. So as I have already told you earlier, like at the starting of this video, I have told you how EMF is alternating, because the kind of output that we get is alternating, and how is it happening, I have told you. But here let us understand this one. The kind of the construction of this rotor is done, and the direction of the current it will have. Normally in any generator, no matter what it is, okay, because in that generator, that what we have spoken in the starting of the class, that generator is producing some alternating current rate, alternating voltage. When this is alternating, but DC, when I talk about DC, but DC is not alternating rate, it is constant over time, because whatever time I'm having here, it is constant over time. If I'm having the magnitude of 5 volts, it will be 5 volts for over time. Even when the t equals to infinity, it is going to be 5 volts only. Here when the t equals to 0, it is 5 volts. Even when t equals to 1 second, it is 5 volts. Even when t equals to 10 seconds, it is going to be 5 volts. In DC, the voltage should not fluctuate. That means in DC, the voltage will have one single common magnitude all over time. Even when the time is infinity, it is going to have the same magnitude. So, but in the AC, it is not going to be like that, because the AC, the magnitude is not changing, but still the direction is changing. See, here I'm having positive cycle and here I'm having negative cycle. That means at one time or at one instance, the current is flowing in this direction. So for this cycle, let us consider as this is positive and this is negative. This is negative. So at another instance, in this half cycle, what happens automatically? The current starts flowing in this direction. The current starts flowing in opposite direction. So what happens? And now this conductor is going to be negative, and this part and this terminal is going to be positive. So, and this is how we are getting the output. But how am I getting the common magnitude output with the only one direction? Only because of this is having 2 directions, only because of this is only having 1 direction, I call it as a unidirectional current. What is it called? Unidirectional, in the sense it will have only 1 direction. That means if this terminal is going to be positive and this terminal is going to be positive forever, that means it will not fluctuate or it will not change its sign. If it is positive forever. So what happens here is this is 5 volts and this is 5 volts forever. So the direction is not changing. But here the direction is changing in case of AC. Only because of that reason, here I'm having one this direction and another is this direction. So I call AC as a bidirectional current. Bi in the sense, the Latin name of 2 is bi. Bi in the sense 2, which means 2. So uni in the sense, the Latin name of 1 is uni. We can also call it as mono. So bi in the sense, we will have 2 directions. So the current now here in this diagram is following the 2 directions, and so it is called as bidirectional current. So no matter what kind of generators we are having, if it is a DC generator, still it is producing AC. See, I'm not telling that we are getting AC, but it is producing AC inside the machine. But what that converts this AC into DC, and then only we are going to collect the DC current. So what is the physical arrangement or the mechanical arrangement that is mounted over the shaft that is producing, that is converting this AC into DC? So what I am telling here is, no matter what generator it is, it might be either DC generator or it might be the AC generator. There is a small, or there is a small mechanical arrangement. Mechanical arrangement. So this mechanical arrangement is nothing but I call it as a commutator. What do you call it as? Commutator. I'll tell you how it works later, but now understand why it is used. Okay, so this communicator, I mean commutator, this is called commutator. If you want the spelling, it is COMMUTATOR, commutator. So commutator, in a sense, it commutes, like it converts. It doesn't convert actually, it literally cancels the negative cycle. For your understanding, it literally cancels the negative cycle. So what happens automatically when this negative cycle is cancelled? That means it is not taken, because this commutator is used for collecting the power. So if there is no commutator, I will get this negative cycle also. If there is commutator, what happens? This negative cycle will be cancelled. So when this negative cycle is cancelled, what do I get? I will get only positive cycles. That means, let us say I will have positive cycles here. But when this negative cycle is cancelled, this is not compensated with another positive cycle, but I will be having some gap. But still, I'm not going to use only one conductor, right? In the general or in the normal generators, in the practical generators, there will be number of turns, but here I'm having only one turn. But in the practical, I'm having number of conductors, for which the peak values of every wave is gonna have one single magnitude, which I consider it as one line. So this is how we get a current in one direction. Okay, so when there is a commutator present in AC machine, this makes that generator a DC generator. So only because of the presence of the commutator, I am calling the generator as DC generator. If there is no commutator and if we are collecting directly from the end terminals of this conductor, and we call that as a AC generator normally, because the kind of output that we are getting is alternating. And so we are going to get that kind of output which is alternating in nature. But this DC is not going to be alternating in nature because of the presence of this commutator. What happens? The negative cycles are getting cancelled, and because of that reason, I'm getting only positive cycles. So the positive cycles will have its peak value. The peak value all merges together to form one single magnitude, which is, let us take it as a 5 volts. So this 5 volts is going to be for whatever the time it is. Understanding? So, it is like you must have to imagine all things. If you are not having that kind of imagination skills to understand how it works, it could be just, it will be difficult for you. But at mostly you can improve it. Okay, don't worry about it. So what my main point here is, only because of the presence of this commutator, what happens? This AC generator is called as a DC generator. So if there is no commutator, if there is no this kind of physical or mechanical arrangement that is done, shafted amount, this is shafted and or this is this is mounted on the shaft. This is mounted on the shaft. So from this commutator we have to collect the electricity that we are getting or that we are induced in this armature or the rotor part. So we have to collect the power or the electricity that is produced here with the help of a copper carbon brushes. Why carbon is used as a brushes? Because carbon is very soft material that it won't hurt the strips of this commutator. It is very soft, so that it won't damage the physical arrangement or the mechanical arrangement. So there will be no scratches also. This is such much soft that it won't damage anything physically or mechanically. It won't damage anything. And it is very, as a carbon, it is having less resistance so that it can accept the more and more current, so that we are able to collect the each and every electron in the form of the current. Okay, so that's why the carbon is used. Why carbons are only used? So you can answer this one. So carbons are used only because of it is very soft material and the kind of brushes we use is very soft. So that's why it is not damaging the commutator strips, because on this commutator there will be strips. So these strips are not going to be damaged. If this is not there, if instead of carbon, if we use any other material, this is going to be hurting this one. So what happens automatically? This will get damaged, and we will not be able to collect the electricity. So I think generator classification will be taught to you in the next class. But for some time instance, you can go to some channels like not only channels like you can search it in the Google about how this happens. So there is no help of this one, so you can even search for more things. But in the next class, we are going to talk about how generators are classified and how motors are classified. Okay, so this is all for today. Actually, let me know. Let me see some comments if I'm getting any, because I'm running out of time actually. Let me see some comments so that we can have a conversation. Okay. Sai Charan, negative cycles are cancelled. Okay. See, this commutator is designed or constructed in such a way that it won't touch. See, let us understand this. It won't touch when the negative cycle is happening. That means, for example, when I say this is positive one and this is negative one, I want this to be constant forever. I means whenever the negative cycle is coming, I mean when the direction is like this, it is positive and this is negative. So what happens automatically? The direction changes. So when the direction changes, the negative sign, the signs also will change. So what happens automatically? Try to understand this. This commutator will not touch. It won't touch the terminals. That means the insulating material will be kept during the touch, no? So it won't touch the terminals. So what happens? It won't receive this energy. Okay, it will only receive this positive and negative energy, and it won't receive this negative and positive. That means here the kind of alternation that we're having is negative cycle, right? So when I say this positive and this is negative, so I would say this is positive direction. So when this negative cycle is there, my negative, and this will become the positive. So the commutator will not take this one, okay? It will not touch the terminals. So it is constructed in that way, and that is why we will have some straps. So these straps have to be very much noticed, you know, it is very much highly significant in case of DC generator. Okay, I hope you understood. Even if you're not understanding this one, I will tell you this in the next class, because the next class is going to be entirely on this one. Not entirely, but partially on this one. You will understand it more clearly in the next class also. Okay, softness. Yes, it is softness only because of the softness. Softness in the sense the material that we do with this carbon material, you know, the carbon material we use is such soft that it won't damage these straps. Because this rotor is moving, right? While this rotor is moving, this will not move. This is only the thing that is moving. While this is moving, put something near to it, we are hurting indirectly, or it may hurt us indirectly. But when we put this one, the carbon material, it won't hurt anything mechanically or physically. So what happens automatically is it will only collect the electricity that is being produced in these segments. Understanding? So even if it is not clear, Sai Charan, I'll tell it in the next class, don't worry. So I will give you another explanation. I will give you another time. That means while this is happening during this positive cycle, I will have this like the signs like this. That is, one is positive and another is negative. That means the current direction is in this way. Let us erase this one. Let us erase this. The current direction is in this way. That means the current starts here and ends here. So what happens? We are taking a supply like this, and we're using it for some load. So the current direction is like this, and here it is positive and this is negative. For example, and later when it rotates completely in the next half cycle, like, you know, this one is done. But what about this one? So when this turns even more to come back to its first position, what happens? The direction changes. So when the direction changes, the polarity also changes. So when this polarity is changing, it will not, this commutator will not collect this charge or this current. Okay, this commutator is of that reason. This commutator is only for that reason. Okay, so we will have the significance of this commutator also, because this is constructed in that way. If this commutator is not there, we will be collecting both positive and negative cycles, and so we will not be having any kind of DC components over there. So we will definitely have the only AC components which are alternating in the nature. Understanding? So this is all about today, and tomorrow we are gonna look at even more concepts on the generator and motor. So tomorrow most probably I will be dealing with the torque equations that we get in the motor, and tomorrow I will also be doing some problematic part also. So with the concept, we are going to have some problematic part also. And this is all for today, and let me know if you're having some doubts in these topics. And you can ask me tomorrow also, because we are having enough time, because now I'm running out of time actually. So this is all the class about today. This is all the class about today, and tomorrow we are going to discuss even more topics. Okay, and then let me know the doubts. It is very much clear. I'm telling it again and again, because if you're having any doubts, let me know the doubts so that I can clear you. Okay, so anyway, see you again in the next class. Again, see you. Bye.